Hello, my name is John Bush with the California Energy Alliance. And for those of you that do not know, the California Energy Alliance gives its members a seat at the table, which is a voice in the regulatory process and an opportunity to influence codes, standards, and policies through active participation. Often, this is literally a seat at real or virtual tables through our member and working group meetings. This is where our work on specific energy measures is done. Discussions, debates, analysis, aggregating multiple perspectives, and developing specific recommendations. In this video, we'd like to discuss the work our outcome-based approach working group is taking on at this point. Just a little bit about what this group does, as well as how it's been evolving over time. And then finally, what are the main objectives we're going to be moving forward with? You know, on this video, we're fortunate to have both Dima Zamaris as well as John Zielinski, who are currently leading this group. And to get off to start with here, Dima, can you give us a little bit of information on what this group does currently?
Yeah, thank you, John, for that intro. So this group came to be just based on this idea that there's a perceived gap between what our buildings are doing based on our code requirements, and then what they're actually doing in practice once they have occupants. And so the goal of this group is to promote a performance-based approach to energy consumption, meaning that we want to better understand what our buildings are actually doing post-occupancy. Originally, the focus of our group was really fixated on promoting like a third compliance pathway within Title 24, where, after the building is occupied, there's a performance period where you're actually kind of checking in on what the building is doing to verify that you're getting that energy performance that you wanted during design. But as we have worked in this group, our goal has evolved a little bit to expand really, and also include a building performance standard view as well. So, beyond just like a code compliance viewpoint, we want our outcome-based approach to capture, both the design side of buildings, but also capture the existing building stock. And I think John will speak a little bit more to how that has evolved with what's going on in the industry.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Dima. John, could you give us a little bit more insight on how it has evolved?
Yep. So buildings account for approximately 40% of all greenhouse gas emissions. And in larger metropolitan areas, it could be much higher. It could range from 60 to 80%. And what we've seen is a change around the country as major US cities and states in the Northeast and West Coast, where there's heavily populated population that are shifting more towards greenhouse gas emission reduction goals. And if you look at energy codes just in general, they're more prescriptive in nature, and they generally don't account for how the buildings operate. And quite frankly, there's really not much alignment among the design community, construction, commissioning, and building operations. And if you look at Local Law 97 in New York City, which is probably the most known of the building performance standards that are out there, building performance standards address existing buildings and new buildings alike. So just because you meet an energy code when you construct your building, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to meet that building performance standard requirement in the future. And we see this as a major market driver to force alignment with the design and construction communities and how the building occupants think about how their buildings are going to be utilized. And if you look in California, there's an energy benchmarking program that collects energy consumptions of many different building types. And these buildings were constructed at many different time periods with different energy codes in place during that time. And you can see how these buildings comparatively operate. So when you look at these buildings and how they perform in the real world, it gives us great insight into how we can improve how energy is consumed in buildings moving forward.
I appreciate that. That gives not only an understanding of what the group is doing, but how the landscape of the overall industry looks like. Dima, could you give us a little bit further insight then on what is the main objective of this working group at this time?
Yeah, so right now we're really focused on making a data-driven case for outcome-based approaches, whether that be implemented in codes or in building performance standards. So as I mentioned earlier, I mean, there is this perceived gap, but there isn't really an existing body of research that really shows this across like a large volume of buildings. And so right now we're looking to leverage that California benchmarking data as a starting point and do some data analysis and better understand, how the buildings are performing, based on what they're reporting compared to the code they were designed to. And from there, we're hoping that this will open the door for further research that we could use to help promote outcome-based policy and regulations.
Oh, thank you so much. That really appreciate that insight that the both of you were able to provide on this working group, and definitely reaching out to all of the current members and or future members of the California Energy Alliance. And this is just one of the many working groups that we have currently moving forward on various just initiatives. And if any of you are interested, please reach out. We're more than happy to include you in the work that these working groups are doing. So thanks again, John. Thanks again, Dima. And off we go on to the next initiative. Thank you so much. We'll take care. Bye-bye.